Ok. Hola, muy buenas tardes. Primero que todo quiero agradecer por su asistencia y también agradecer a Brant, un amigo personal dentro de la comunidad de Midlatam. Hemos tenido la oportunidad de poder compartir y estar con él en reiteradas oportunidades. Ha visitado nuestro país en 3 veces ya a la fecha y siempre ha sido una grata experiencia poder ver y poder compartir con él. Bueno, Brant tiene más de 20, 25 años de experiencia en el mercado internacional, el área de industria creativa y el área TI. Y bueno, está muy reconocido por ser el coautor de Lean Startup, el Lean Entrepreneur. Los quienes se enfocaron en él prácticamente, estaba hablando y dando conferencias a nivel internacional, también como hackathon y workshops. Ha hablado en eventos importantes promoviendo lo que es su libro Los Conocimientos en Kuala Lumpur, Venture Capital Symposium, en Lean Startups, en las conferencias de Vancouver y Michigan, entre otros. También está en Boston, Londres, Nueva York, Chicago, San Francisco, entre otros. Bueno, él está a cargo y está muy apasionado por lo que es el tema del crecimiento de la industria tech en San Diego. Él está a cargo y liderando el San Diego Tech Founders y está desarrollando meetups mensuales, donde tiene aproximadamente 100 y 200 emprendedores que están participando. Ha hablado también y ha participado en charlas con Eric Ries, Steve Blank, aparte de eso, Kissmetrics, Catchfree CEO, Sean Ellis y Mark Suster. Aparte de eso, Brant tiene 20 años de experiencia en la industria TI y también tiene todo un récord y también un seguimiento que a la industria de lo que es el market y la high tech y los productos de alta tecnología. Bueno, hago muy profesional de los servicios, product manager también y aparte en el área de marketing un especialista. Así que ahora no les quito más tiempo y dejo directamente a Brant con ustedes. No cabe mencionar de que cualquier tipo de preguntas las pueden realizar a través de Twitter al @latam o a mi Twitter personal que es Félix González también, y también al mail de que yo le hice llegar la invitación con este link para que cualquier duda que tengan la podamos hacer. La charla va a ser en inglés, van a ser aproximadamente 40, 45 minutos de charla y después van a haber preguntas para terminar la hora. Ok, Brant, now it's all up to you. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Felipe. So I want to tell a story. Back in the mid 2000s, I was joining a startup, and I was joining as an interim VP of marketing. And I had been in startups before. I went through the sort of the .com boom and bust of the 90s and the early 2000s. But this was about 2004, 2005, and the startup world was bouncing back, or it had already bounced back. And so I was joining this team. I'm joining a new team, right? So they already have all of these amazing things in place. They have, this visionary who's like some genius mathematician who's created new algorithms for big data storage. And we had an experienced CEO with a big vision and strong leadership skills, and we had a world-class engineering team. We had field salespeople across North America. We had professional services team that could implement the product. We had great investors. We had a bunch of money in the bank. And so I'm really excited. I'm joining a team that they already seem to be cranking. They've already got customers, right? So this is like an ideal situation to, you're a marketing guy and you want to join a team that's already on its way, and all you want to do is get them over this hump so they get their hockey stick revenues, and all is going to be wonderful. So I was very excited. So part of my experience of having gone down the .com boom and bust was I was experimenting around new ways to build startups so that we didn't have the big failures that we had in the .com era. And so philosophically, the way I would think about it was that we wanted to see if we could learn before executing. So rather than treating everything that we do inside of a startup as if it were a big business, a startup should maybe act differently and do this learning before executing thing. And so I was trying to work on these ideas that I was having at the time as I joined this powerful new startup. And so, you know, one of the things that I wanted to do, that I'm trying to do at this point, is I'm trying to learn why our existing customers bought our product. What was the value that they are getting out of the product? Why did they reach out to us? Why did they choose us? How are they using this technology, this database technology? How did we reach them? What was the marketing tactics? What did it take to sell them? So there's all of these things that, as a new marketing person, I wanted to learn. And so the best way to do that, I felt, is to go talk to the customers. But again, sort of funny that in those days, we taught startups to act like big businesses. And so even though we were only, I don't know, 20 people or something, we were already formulating the company in departments very much like we do big businesses, you know, and it looks like an assembly line. You've got marketing and sales and engineering and operations and facilities and customer service and professional services and all of these different departments. And we're trying to grow a company by adding more people to each of those departments. And what inevitably happens is that those departments start acting like silos. Again, just like those big businesses, those big bureaucracies that everybody complains about, that they move too slowly and you can't get anything done because of these silos. And what happens is that the leaders of those departments start formulating what I call rules of engagement. And so in order for you as a marketing person to talk to the engineering team, you have to fill out the paperwork and schedule time, and it becomes this mess. Well, so here's a startup that's already acting that way, and it seems kind of nutty to me. But so I'm trying to talk to customers, and the VP of sales says, no, you can't go talk to this customer. I own these relationships, and I need to protect the time of my customers, and you can't go talk to them. So I'm kind of scratching my head going, well, how am I supposed to learn? And so there was a few things that I could execute on, and I could do trade shows and talk to the media and talk to analysts and run some ads, on Google Ads, and I can measure the ROI on some of that, and I can, link our website into our Salesforce automation tool. So there's some things that I can put into play that allows us to measure the return on investment of our different marketing activities. But none of that allows me to learn from the customer. All I have is my engineering team and my sales team and the CEO and the visionary, and I can talk to them. But how do I really know? How do I really know what's true without actually talking to people that are inside my market? And so this kind of goes on for several months. And I'm getting kind of worried, because even though we're generating all of these leads and they're going down our pipeline to the point that our professional services team are running what's called proof of concept. So we take data from our potential customer, and they run the data in a competition against our these other vendors that have similar products, and we win a lot of those competitions. And I'm thinking, wow, we've got leads, we've got people that are winning these proof of concepts. How come we're not closing deals? And this is like a big mystery to me. And so we miss our numbers. A quarter goes by, we miss our numbers. And so if you're in a startup that has funding from investors, what happens when you miss your numbers is that the board of directors, in the quarterly meetings, they talk to the CEO, and they're like, hey, why are we missing our numbers? What's going on? And the CEO turns around and says, hey, VP of sales, the pipeline looks great. How come we're not closing? And the VP of sales looks at the VP of marketing and says, we're getting crappy leads. And so this time through, when they miss their numbers, the VP of sales can't point to the VP of marketing, because they've already let go the other VP of marketing, and they've brought in an interim VP of marketing. And so it can't be marketing's fault. This time when they miss the numbers, they're saying, well, it looks like it's sales fault. And so the sales guy actually got pretty worried. And suddenly he was going to let me go talk to customers because he realized that that was the way that I needed to learn in order to find more customers like those that had already purchased. So we had 3 solid customers at this point. So we're still early stage, but we're literally spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, right? So we've raised all this money, but our burn rate, hundreds of thousands of dollars going out the door every month to support all of the people that we've got employed in our marketing activities and development of new product features, and all that stuff takes a lot of money, right? So money flowing out the door, we're not closing the leads like we should be, but we've got these 3 solid customers. So now I go out and I get to talk to these customers. So the first one I call up on the phone, and it's this IT guy from a telco. Now, telcos, telecommunication companies here in the US are notorious for taking people's products and running pilot programs. And so that means that they're just going to play with the product for a while. And literally you could walk into the office of IT guys and the shelves are just stacked with software and servers and routers and all of these vendors' products that they're testing, but actually have never taken out of the box. And, you know, that's where ours was sitting. So customer number 1, product's not even running. So again, I'm a little bit worried. So I go and talk to customer number 2. I find out that the customer number 2 is like the brother-in-law of somebody who's on our board of directors. And the server's running, at least it's running, but nobody's really using it because it was kind of a fake sale, even though they gave us some money, but it was only to sort of make it seem like we had momentum and there was nobody using the product. All right, so now I'm getting scared. I'm not just worried, I'm scared. But there's one other customer that I can go and talk to. And this customer was like one of the hottest startups of 2005. They were actually, during this time, they were going through an acquisition. They were, you know, valued had a valuation of over $1 billion. And there was a lot of hype in the media about them. And, you know, they loved us. So I call them up on the phone and I go, you know, I'm like, it's like, you don't know how happy I am to speak to you. I just really need to learn about how you're using our product and why you chose us and why you love us so much. And the guy on the other side was like, you know, it's great to meet you. We love you guys. But I do have to tell you that we're not using your product. And I'm like, what? But, you know, we're out there doing case studies on you guys where we have the media writing about you. We go to all the data analysts and we're talking about how you guys like our product, how you love our product, and you're not using us. And he's all like, yeah, you know, we love your technology, but really for the day-to-day operations, Oracle was better. So we're using Oracle. I'm all like, oh, I literally, I want to cry. And he's like, oh, but, you know, don't worry about all that press. We love you guys. You can continue to talk. And I'm all like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, I hung up the phone and I'm just like, oh my God, we have built a product that nobody wants. We have built a product that nobody wants. We have raised millions of dollars. We've spent millions of dollars building a product, marketing and selling a product nobody wants. This is crazy. Think about the waste. It's not just the waste of money, which is significant. It's not just the waste of time. Think about the creativity and the inspiration and the opportunity costs. Think about all of the employees there that were giving all of this time, and it was for naught, right? And not only not only is it a failure to build a product that nobody wants, people do, make mistakes all the time, but we hadn't learned anything. We were still in execution mode. We were still pretending that everything was hunky-dory. We were pretending that all it took was to work harder, that we needed better marketing, that we needed better sales. But none of that was true. You can have the best marketing and the best sales in the world, and if you build a product that nobody wants, it doesn't matter. So this was not a big win in my career. And so what I was adamant to take out of this was, what did I learn? And as I had been in there and was trying to think through these learning processes that I was discussing earlier, that we have to learn before we execute, this is where it started coming together. Like, wow, we can't just treat startups like we treat big businesses. We can't just believe that everything is about executing. It's not just about writing code. It's not just about putting good marketing campaigns together. It's not just knowing how to do enterprise business-to-business sales. We have to learn what works. We have to learn whether we're building the right product. We have to learn whether we're building the right features. We have to learn whether we've got the right market segment. We have to learn whether we know how to market to these people. We have to learn what is the buying process that they will go through in order to sign a purchase order. We need to learn what it takes to implement this type of technology inside a corporate data center. All of these things, everything part of your business model must be learned before it can be executed on. And so all of this business of how we used to treat startups like big businesses, all of the business plans and documenting all of these things, that how you're going to go to market, and how it's all BS until you actually do it. So it's not bad to go through those planning stages in order to create what you hope might happen or what you think might happen. But you have to recognize those things as guesses. You have to recognize those things as assumptions. And so this is really what lean startup and lean innovation is all about. It's about, how do we actually expose those assumptions and then run experiments to validate or invalidate those assumptions so that we actually can learn before we execute. So Steve Blank's 4 Steps to the Epiphany, Eric Ries's The Lean Startup book, my book, The Lean Entrepreneur, talk about how we can do these processes. How can we, I call them the three E's of lean innovation. Empathy. So how do we understand our customers deeply? How can we understand what a day in the life of our customer is like, and how and what problems they have that we can solve, and how we can impact their lives based upon our solutions or our solution ideas or technology or other changes that we might make. We have to understand our customers to do that. It's not about what we think and what we believe. It's about actually what happens in the marketplace. The market is the final dictator. The market chooses, not how hard we think about something. So the second E is experimentation. So this is the idea that we can run experiments to validate ideas or invalidate ideas. And so you've probably heard of some of these experiments that we talk about in the lean startup world. There's the landing page experiment, which is, doesn't have a lot of fidelity to it, but can give you some useful data. So a landing page is a one-page website, and you put up your value proposition on the page and some sort of call to action, and then you do AdWords or some of these other marketing techniques in order to drive traffic to that page, and you try to get people to do that call to action that indicates that yes, in fact, this market segment does value that value proposition, at least to the degree that they'll be giving up some of their personal information, like an email address or a phone number. So it's not a really hard experiment, but it can give you some indication. There's a there's an experiment called the concierge experiment, where this is if you can, not, it doesn't work for all business models, but you attempt to supply the value that your technology promises by doing it in person first. So an example might be, we were working with a company in Rio de Janeiro who was working on classified ads, and they thought that they might be able to increase classified ads if they actually facilitated a delivery service for an exchange of goods. So in other words, you're selling on normal classified, somebody buys, somebody sells. Well, what if this company somehow acted as, or provided as a service, the ability to pick up that product and then deliver it to the buyer? And so at first they talked to a lot of customers to get the empathy, and then they ran experiments, and the way they did it is the company themselves bought the product, went and picked it up, and then sold the product and went and delivered it. So they acted like a middleman without doing any technology, without building anything. They were testing whether that value proposition would work and whether people would pay for it. And in the process of doing that, they generate evidence, which is the third E of lean innovation, which is evidence. And so instead of using what we think about inside the building, we're actually using what we find out in the real world, experiment results, data, and insights to validate whether we're moving forward with an idea. So we try to take the human emotion out of it, right? So we all build products, we're in love with our products, and we're really sure, we have lots of conviction that people will buy those products. And so we're going to build and build and build because we have conviction about our idea. But it's the evidence in the marketplace that really should determine whether we're going down the right path or not. And so even in that example that I just gave, one of the big insights that they came across by going out and doing this in person was that, you know, the people that lived in the favelas had a hard time participating in the classified ad marketplace because people didn't want to go into those neighborhoods. And so by doing the delivery service correctly, you actually open up this whole other market, which was really interesting. But so anyway, again, the three E's of lean innovation: empathy, experiments, and experimentation and evidence. And so this is what we want to apply to our entire business model, so that we don't get into the wasting that I talked about before. And so it's not just the product, it's also how to market, it's how to sell, it's how to distribute, it's how to provide customer service. And so you want to be able to look at all of the uncertain parts of your business model and run these experiments and gain customer empathy and talk to your customers and get insights in order to build the company that has the potential to succeed and to grow. So if you have any questions about that, you can let me or Felipe know, and we can. I'm sure Felipe's got some questions. We can dive in as well. But the second part of what I wanted to talk to you about today briefly is this framework that I've built out called the Value Stream Discovery tool. And hopefully this can help you think through what are some of the things that you need to test. And so when I came up with this framework, it completely changed the way I thought about business models. So as much as possible, we want to think about how our business looks from the customer's perspective rather than from our own perspective. And so I laid out 7 steps that a customer goes through during their interaction with your startup. And the first is that they become aware of the product or your company. The second is that then they become intrigued, right? So they're interested. The third step is that they become trusting. And so they're asking the question, are you the right company to deliver the product that you've promised me, right? The fourth is they become convinced. The fifth is that then they are hopeful. They're hopeful they made the right decision. The sixth is they become satisfied. And the seventh is they become passionate. And you can build a successful business by getting people just to satisfied, but you can't grow a big business. To get to a big business, you have to get customers to passionate. And the reason is by thinking about the behavior. How does a passionate customer behave? A passionate customer puts new prospects, new potential customers into the top of your awareness funnel without you spending any money on marketing. So you can imagine that for every one customer that you get passionate, you've created another, at least another one, more than one, without you spending any money on marketing. So you can imagine then if you start spending money on marketing, you're going to see, the fast growth, hopefully even, exponential growth. So there's a couple of things. I don't want to go through all 7 of those steps. It's in my book, and there's videos out that you might be able to find. But I want to concentrate on just a couple, 3 or 4 of these steps. First is intrigued. So a lot of intrigued, which is step number 2, is around your messaging. So it's the story that you're telling. So somebody, you run a Google AdWords, somebody comes to your website. Now you're giving them messaging and positioning that's going to hopefully result in them being intrigued. So there's 2 parts of intrigued that you need to concentrate on. One is the promise that you're making. This is the utility promise. This is the problem that you're solving with your product. You're literally saying to your customer, I promise my product X will do this Y. Right? So I promise this product will solve this problem. You have to be able to fulfill that promise. If you can't fulfill that promise, you have no business. So you can't overpromise, but you also can't underpromise because then nobody cares. Okay? The second part of that intrigued message is about the impact that you have on the person who buys your product. So this gets a little bit more fluffy, right? This is more aspirational. If you're selling to a stay-at-home mom, the impact you might have is that she feels better about herself as a mother or as a spouse. For maybe you're selling to a small business owner. The small business owner, the aspiration is that they want to make a little bit more money so they can take their family to New York on vacation every summer. So what is the hope that is being generated? What's the aspiration that the customer has that your product will have this impact? So those are the 2 components that you must have in intrigued. And I encourage you to go look at other people's websites, look at advertisements on TV, and look for those 2 things that are happening inside of commercials and advertisements and those type of things. So the next step, I'm going to skip over trusting because that's really just about you being authentic and demonstrating that you can deliver on the promise that you've made to them. One last comment, the aspirational part of intrigue, you can't promise that, right? You can't promise that somebody's going to be a better parent, a better spouse, or be a better entrepreneur. They have to go on that journey with you. So you can't promise that part. That's why it's called aspirational. But anyway, let's get to hopeful. Hopeful, they've already bought. So now they're wondering, did I make the right decision? And so you have to close the gap between buy and try. This is where you have to get them to attempt to achieve the value that you promised to them as quickly as possible. The longer the gap between them buying your product or signing up your product and them actually getting value, the less likely they're ever to get to satisfied. So, I don't know how much this applies in Chile, but in the U.S., I joke that you buy a electronic toy for a kid that's stamped with the label "batteries included." Why do they have batteries included? Batteries are included so the kid can try to play with the toy right away, not after mom or dad runs to the store and buys the batteries that they forgot to buy. So this hopeful is really important. You have to shorten the time as possible. So if you build a mobile app, a good mobile app now, you'll see that when you log on for the first time, it has the tour, points to the 2 or 3 things that you should be trying right away. And the same thing for a good internet application, web application, is it's, okay, do this first, or an email drip campaign. Here's the top 3 things to try with our product right away. And if they don't do it, you continue to ping them in order to get them to try it right away. So hopeful is very important, and it's underutilized. People don't think about it. The next step is satisfied. Satisfied comes from fulfilling the utility part of your intrigue. It's for fulfilling the promise. So if you've said this product will solve this problem, that's how you get them to satisfied, is by actually solving that problem. And so what you want to do for each one of these steps is you hypothesize, what must I do as a business to make my customer achieve that step? So what do I have to do to make my customer feel satisfied? What is the behavior? And so, like, if you've got a mobile app or a web app, that behavior is going to be the exact functionality that they use over a specific period of time. If you build a marketing application, it's, my customer logs on every day and looks at their marketing dashboard, and then once a week launches a new activity inside the marketing platform. So it's the specific functionality they use over a specific time period that measures this behavior that indicates that your customer is getting dissatisfied. You have to put a stake in the ground. You have to define the use of the product and the time frame that they use it within in order to measure against that and understand where your gaps are. Right? So the first time you try that, you're going to strike out, and it's going to be, no customers are using what I think they should be doing. And so that tells you either have the wrong customer or the wrong product. And so then you have to iterate to find the right customer and find the right product functionality. So you have to put a stake in the ground. My customer will use these features this amount of time, over a week or over a day, over a month. And then you have to be able to measure that behavior. So you have to instrument your product to be able to measure that. And then that tells you what to iterate on in order to get to those numbers that you think should be there. So the other thing to remember is that satisfaction is a threshold. It's not a continuum. So what I mean by that is, you fulfilled the promise. Your customer is past satisfied because you fulfilled the promise. Adding more features doesn't do you any good. And so a lot of customers, a lot of entrepreneurs think that they need to continue to add features in order to get more satisfaction. And it doesn't make sense. Or they think that's what'll get people to passion, but that's not how it works. So once you reach that threshold, you need to stop developing features until you start targeting a new market segment. And then you might have to build features for that new market segment. And by the way, you have to figure out how to build new features for that new market segment without destroying the value that you're creating for your first market segment. But for most products, you cannot get people to passion by building more features. This is a big mistake entrepreneurs make. So let's talk about passionate for a second. Passion is this crazy state that, like I just said, is beyond the product, usually is beyond the product. And so you have to figure out, you have to hypothesize and then run experiments to try to figure out what is it that you have to add to your business model to get customers to passionate. So sometimes it's marketing. HubSpot in the United States does great content marketing. They've got a great content marketing platform. That's what HubSpot does. Nobody's passionate about platforms. Nobody's passionate about HubSpot content marketing platform. What they're passionate about is HubSpot's content marketing, which teaches people how to be better entrepreneurs, how to be better small business owners. And so if by digesting the content that HubSpot creates, an individual does become a better entrepreneur and they see their revenues grow up, they're going to be passionate about HubSpot because it's great content plus the platform. It's the utility promise plus the aspiration that gets people to passionate. For other companies like Tom's Shoes, it could be that you're donating to charities and that makes people passionate, right? There's nothing really new about selling shoes. So why do people love Tom's? It's because they've included the philanthropy part of it. Or it could be customer service. There's nothing crazy about, you know, buying shoes online like Zappos, right? Nobody's passionate about buying shoes online. They're passionate because of Zappos customer service. They're passionate because the customer is made to feel special. They're passionate because Zappos, you know, randomly ships product overnight shipping to customers. There's all these, you know, things that you could do that make the customer feel special. That's why people are passionate about Zappos. So you've got this long journey to get people to satisfied, and then you've got this long journey to get people to passionate. And that's, if you can do that, that's where you're going to see growth, and then you're going to hit another plateau, and then it's almost like starting over again. You have to find another market segment or find another product that you can drive satisfaction to, and then get to passionate. So that's how you scale a business, is by looking at this value stream discovery for one market segment. You figure it out, you go up, and then you plateau, and you got to do it again for another market segment or a new product. And so I hope I've opened up your creativity about how you can do that in your own business model, and, you know, not to simply have faith in your ideas, but to actually have a way to you know, in a process-driven way, figure out what your assumptions are and how to go test them. I've got a bunch of tools on my website, movestheneedle.com, where you can download some of these things that I've just been talking about, and that maybe will help you think through how to apply that to your business. So Felipe, maybe you have some questions, or there's questions from the audience you want to get into?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you very much for all this knowledge. It was
You're
really
welcome.
good, and a lot of different things for us to learn. Well, yeah, I have a lot of questions here, so I'm gonna try to select 3.
Okay.
From the audience. Okay, one is that all of the people that you interview, and your knowledge in the Latin American market, and all of your trips that you have come to Chile and also to Brazil, what do you think is our principal virtue and our defects as a region compared to what you have seen?
You know, I actually think it's pretty similar everywhere. You know, I don't know the age of the questioner, but what I actually find pretty much everywhere in the world, that young people tend to, you know, millennials is what I guess everybody calls them, but are very entrepreneurial and want to create value for the world. They're not just concentrated on creating money. And so I actually find them very similar all over the world. You know, I was actually just in Kazakhstan a couple of weeks ago, and they're starting a startup Kazakhstan in order to, you know, replicate what Chile has done. So I actually think Chile is a little bit more advanced than a lot of areas, just because I think of what's been going on down there for the last, you know, 5, 6, 7 years. And they actually were pretty early adopters of Steve Blank's stuff, which I think is great. I actually have not been to Sao Paulo, which I think is more of a startup hub than Rio de Janeiro is. I think that you know, Brazil has more more obstacles in their government than Chile does. I think Chile has embraced entrepreneurialism more than a lot of countries in the world. So I think that's all says positive things. I think that I think that the problems that entrepreneurs in Chile have are similar to, again, the problems that entrepreneurs have all over the world. I think we kind of teach them how to try to automate things indoors, when I actually think the win is outside. So let me just put it this way. In the early stages of a startup, whoever hustles wins. And this is true. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're, in China or Silicon Valley or San Diego or Kazakhstan or Santiago. The hustler wins. And by that, I mean the person who's really willing to go knock on doors, literally knock on doors, to try to do customer development, to try to gain that customer empathy. Everybody wants to just do it by email or by surveys or whatever, by Facebook. And I tell you, the ones that actually are willing to go knock on doors and get over the fear of talking to strangers, those are the ones who win. Felipe?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I just was filtering the questions. Now there's a lot of questions, so this is good. Well,
Yep.
here we have another question that is from a friend that it's in the 4th region. He's Miguel Subic. He's a really top entrepreneur, and he has a really long question, so I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
How do we break this wall that's installed in the academy, where the majority of universities, despite all of the evidence that's been given by pioneers like Steve Blank, Eric Ries, or maybe yourself, they still stick to teaching classic business management and business plans? How to break that barrier and let the lean innovation flow in the curriculum so they can start teaching these subjects right away? How do you think
Wow.
you work with that? It's a really good question.
It's a great question, and I feel your pain. So, I don't know if this makes you feel better, but it's really not that different here in the U.S. The way academics in the U.S. work is that they want everything given to them. They're willing to teach new material, but they want the whole course curriculum laid out for them. And so I'm wondering if it might be similar there. So I'm wondering if anybody has attempted to essentially provide the university instructors down there materials where all they have to do is stand up in front of the room and go over PowerPoint, give them a book, have lecture notes that are created by somebody else. So I'm serious about this. This is question number one. And if you want to do some customer development on this, and I'm talking directly to the questioner, if you want to do some customer development on this, I'm happy to work with you on this. But I would choose a couple of professors and ask them the question that, listen, if you were given a completed curriculum, would they be willing to test that? So that's idea number one. Idea number two is to maybe, I wonder who would influence those people. So when I visited Santiago, a couple of years after Startup Chile was first formed, your president, who I don't remember his name, was an entrepreneur.
Sebastián Piñera.
Right. So I don't know what he's doing now, but would university instructors be influenced by him? Is there a way to have him do a video or do a blog post or do a lecture? And again, I would be happy to work on this project, but I'm wondering if he actually wrote something or did a video or was a guest lecturer. whether he could convince those instructors that they need to do it differently. So that would be idea number 2. And it maybe is not just him. Maybe it's other entrepreneurs that have been successful over the years who can endorse that in this day and age, we got to do things differently. So I don't know. So those are the 2 ideas I have. I guess I think that the third thing is that, if anybody has budget, this is the big question mark. I'm happy to fly down and do a session with a university as a guest lecturer. And so that might be something that we could work out. If I get an enterprise gig that pays for my travel down there or something like that, or the next time I come down, we should, if they would be willing and open to do guest lectures, then maybe I could be an influence.
Well, yeah, obviously that will be great. And I think probably now the different universities here, they're having optional classes. And they're trying to insert this kind of material, but it's only just basic. It's only 1 lecture a year. So, for example, it's quite difficult. We're just trying to get this a little bit rough. Yeah, but it's what you're saying. We need like a guidance, for example. Maybe the former president, Sebastián Piñera, will help a lot, but I don't know what's he into right now. But the thing is, in terms of education, you need to go directly to the directors or rectors of the university as well, for them to know about this kind of lectures, this kind of topics, and this kind of knowledge, and trying to implement it and having them inserted in the curriculum, because it's only an major.
So I'm going to get all meta here. What you have to do is get a group of you to act like a startup, and that is your customer. And so you have to run experiments to try to figure out how you can influence that person. And so I just gave a couple of ideas that, get a video from the former president or his vice president that was running, Corfo or whatever. And then there's the, if they're given a complete curriculum, they might be more willing to do it. I think ultimately, maybe if you guys don't have a lab to market course, that would be another thing, is don't, in a way that doesn't maybe doesn't make the instructor, the professor, feel like they're that they're becoming obsolete. What you really need is a lab to market program, and during that class, everybody inside the class is responsible for, by the end of the quarter, launching a product. And so just move the goalpost from a business plan to launching a product.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. That also happened in a couple of universities, and it's been starting for a couple of years, maybe 1 year or 2 years.
Yep.
So let's see. Let's try to arrange, and maybe I can put you in contact with an entrepreneur that was in the 4th region, Miguel, because he has a lot of contacts there as well. So maybe we can, you guys can work on something good. Here we have another question from the south of Chile, from Concepcion. It's a question to you. I think it's really fun, and you need to be completely honest with this answer as well.
Okay.
It says, with all of your knowledge and experience that you have acquired in your years as an entrepreneur and also as an author of the book, could you tell us which one is the most common error or mistake that you committed? And if that error or mistake is a generic one, or it depends on the personality of the people or the entrepreneur in this case.
Yeah, so that's a big question. I mean, I'm fortunate right now to be running a startup, and we're trying to scale. So it's pretty fun. We've gone from really just 2 of us to about 10 people in this last year, and we grew by about 5x. So I think I'm probably making mistakes all over the place. And one of them that worries me is I'm wondering if I'm spreading my team too thin. so that I'm a big proponent. I coach focus, focus, focus all the time. And yet all of these opportunities come up, and it's so easy to jump after any opportunity because it means money, right? And money's good. So I don't know yet if I'm actually making a mistake, but that one worries me is, am I spreading my team too thin? Am I actually pushing too hard? And I did make this mistake before, to tell you the truth. So that I guess that has me a little bit worried. But I tell you what I do about it is I actually tee that up. I ask my co-founder, and I have an executive coach that I'm teeing that up. I'm asking my management team, am I spreading us too thin? You know, what are the arguments in favor and against? So I'm trying to be super transparent about it. And so I think that this is something that I do better than when I made this mistake before, is being super transparent, A, surrounding myself with really smart people, and B, not holding that stuff inside my head, but being transparent about it so I can, it's not necessarily that I follow their advice, but that I listen to it. And so, yeah, so I mean, it's a great question, and I don't, hopefully, did I answer it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they're really happy. Well, Brent, we don't want to take more time from you. Thank you very much once again, and I will put you in contact with the entrepreneur for the region, and see if you guys can make something out of this in terms of curriculum and universities as well.
Yeah, that's great. You know, and frankly, I encourage anybody else as well. You know, I'm at Brant Cooper on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and however people want to connect up with me is fine. So, so good stuff.
Now,
Thanks so much.
great seeing you, and thank you very much, and hope to have you soon or visit you in the valley in the near.
Yeah, I'd love to come down again. So
time is going over there. Thank you very much.
Right.
Bye bye, my friend.
Bye.
Gracias.
Happy Thanksgiving up here.
Gracias. Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.